Better still, if you move your patients in front of the TV during these balmy summer evenings to watch Britain's Best Junior Doctors 2 Monday-Friday, you will spectacularly cut down on the cost of sedatives. Presented by Jo Brand, who made her jokes work so hard they were crying out for Dignitas. The format borrows much from University Challenge. It pits two teams of doctors against each other from hospitals around the country in a program that made me long for the hilariously improbable Shafted, with arguably the funniest catchphrase of them all from Robert Kilroy's Silk: "Will you stick, or will you shaft?" In Junior Doctors, I especially love the way some of the contestants had met each other. We met on the renal ward in the first rotation. Those bedsores can be murder, eh? Most of the medics appearing were in their mid-20s and had apparently completed their training, but I suggest some might still need to pick up a textbook occasionally. Of course, if Kettering General Hospital and Leicester Infirmary, the two featured here, are nowhere near you, no cause for alarm. But for a hypochondriac like me it was heaven. After 30 minutes I had the lot: a subdural hematoma on the brain, something wrong downstairs, you do the guesswork, a broken arm, chronic glaucoma and something called Turner syndrome. Is that going slightly batty while daubing a dramatic coastal scene? God knows what would have happened if I had watched for the entire week. As it was, I could barely walk to the fridge nursing the burden of this tasty menu of ailments. My favorite round was, which ward? Which in the current climate should have been changed to, which ward is closing? And I was quite concerned by the 60-second diagnosis, which was like a trial run for your next visit to the GP. Indeed, had this whole format been devised by the estimable Jeremy Hunt, whom I always think about when I'm paying for hospital parking. Shame really that we couldn't have had a round of very road rhyming words. There's one currently starring in Love Island, ITV2, Monday-Sunday. Doctors can't keep themselves off the box. He's called Alex. I say starring, but most people watching are probably thinking, you don't seem bright enough to be a doctor. And or, why did we bother training you for 6 years just so you could lay around in the sun in Mallorca? Because, of course, he's finally learning how to relate to the opposite. So if a stunning woman presents herself at the surgery one day, he can nervously excuse himself and ask the receptionist how to ask someone on a date. You will be pleased to know after Monday's episode I declared I would never watch another one, not least because the sound effects, don't ask, are making my dinner turn each night. 1. The target of negative stories. The second, a hero who can sort out the ills of the world economy. A tale of two Trumps now. The first option was reporting Trump's first year, the fourth estate. 2. Sunday, a Storyville documentary which is one of the best factual series I've seen this year. The setup involved seeing the Washington Post and the New York Times compete for stories, and there were many, in the early, tumultuous days of the Trump White House. When the executive editor of the New York Times bellows, "What a story!" you realize there is hope for journalism after all, even if not everyone is paying for it. Indeed, that is the theme that fills in the background to this compelling 4-part story, which is not unlike All the President's Men in the way it relentlessly attacks its subject. Initially, it's the Russian thing and was there any collusion? As reporter Glenn Thrush says, everything's extraordinary, which for once is far from a journalistic extravagance. There was speed too, ramped up by the world of online, which saw senior editors gathered around a screen with a cursor hovering over the publish button. Then, just to add to the excitement, President Trump himself comes through on the phone to a correspondent, brought in initially as a Trump expert. 3 episodes remain, but the downside is we know the ending. I feel a BAFTA coming on. He doesn't hate all papers in. For now, the second documentary, Inside the U.S. Embassy, C4, Monday, is rather more pleasing for the White House as it focuses on new Trump appointee, and friend of the president, Robert Woods Johnson, a 71-year-old billionaire, which begs the obvious question, why would you bother? And then, even more surprisingly, he bothers a lot, doing as much as possible to interest the U.S. State Department in Brexit deals. They, alas, are slightly cooler on the prospect, asking the ambassador, is there anything we can do on cultural matters for you? Even more revealing is watching our Defense Secretary, Gavin Williamson, grovel for an appointment with Johnson while attending a party. Would it be possible to pop into your office, etc.? All credit to him for trying, but it points to the scale of the task before them. Big Stevenson's Rocket: Can World Cup broadcasters show some restraint when it comes to Maradona? As far as I'm aware, he doesn't play for Argentina any longer. He would need winching onto the pitch for that, so why, when his national team are playing, must we see his offensive hand signals while wobbling about with a woman and generally being obnoxious? Perhaps authorities could withhold a ticket from the hand of God, because the sight of him makes us all feel slightly ill. We don't care he's there, let alone what he's doing.